We're going to be going over the kettlebell swing today. We're going to look at the execution of the swing, different positions and postures we want to be in, some key points to go over, some corrections that we need to be made, and some safety features. Christine, turn to the side. So the first thing is going to be the backswing. We're going to look at the backswing and address the backswing in this position. The first thing we want to look at, starting in the lower body, is the angle of the hips. We want to be in hip flexion, not spinal flexion, and we want to make sure that the angle of the body is about somewhere between 90 degrees and 45 degrees. Anywhere in there is going to be optimal positioning to load the posterior chain, specifically the glutes and hamstrings, correctly. Then we're going to go down to the knee. We want to make sure the knee is bent. We do want to incorporate the quads in the exercise, so we do want to have the knee bent, but the angle of the knee is important that we do not angle it too far forward over the toe. As you can see, the hips tend to drop and come forward, and we lose the angle of the hip, and we lose some of that load into the posterior chain. It becomes much more about the quad and the knee, and that throws it out of sequence also. So we want to make sure the knee is back, somewhere between the front of the toes and the heel. Anywhere in that general area is going to be appropriate positioning for the knee angle. We want it to be close so the shin looks more vertical than it does 45 degrees and bent forward. But anywhere between the toe and the heel is going to be appropriate. And again, that's going to give us a better hip angle coming out of the swing. Okay, after looking at the knee angle and the hip angle, the next thing to look at is the lumbar and thoracic curves. We want to make sure that the lumbar curve and thoracic curve is basically as natural and normal as possible. We do not want excessive extension or excessive flexion in the lumbar spine. So if you were to flex, that's what it would look like in the lumbar spine. You can see that we lose hip flexion and loading up the hamstring and glute. So back to nice and flat here, good angle at the hip. Also, we want to make sure the arms stay pinned against the side of the body with the hands up as high under the pelvis as humanly possible. The bell should look like it's right there behind the butt, right up underneath. That ensures that we keep connected to the kettlebell as we swing it underneath of us via the lats right here, and the thoracic muscles also. If she disconnects the arms and the lats, you'll see that the bell tends to drop, the hands get low, the bell starts to pull towards the floor, and we tend to get flexed in the upper body. So again, the position of the arm should be up as high as possible, as tight to the body as possible. See, there's no space between the arm and the body, and the hands are up under the hips as much as possible. Again, knee angle, somewhere near vertical with the shin, no more that forward than the toes. Hip angle at around 90 to 45 degrees of body angle. Okay, looking at the position from the front. Again, we want to see that the hands are up as high as possible into the groin, up underneath the pelvis as much as possible. The knee and foot alignment is the main thing to look for from the front. We want to make sure that we see that the hip or the thigh aligns with the knee and ankle. Okay, what we don't want is to see the knee caving in, like so, towards each other. We want to make sure the knee is out. The feet should be opened up a little bit, somewhere between 10 degrees and even up to 45 degrees. Turned out feet is acceptable as long as the person's knee can track the foot like that. So you've got to find the appropriate position based on their level of mobility currently and their structure. Everybody's structure is a little different. Everybody's mobility is a little different. So as long as the parameters of knee lines up with the foot in the backswing, we're good to go. As you can see with Christine, if we turn the feet out this much, her mobility at her hip doesn't quite allow for her to get her knee out over top. It's a bit uncomfortable for her. So she's going to have a position where her foot is a little bit more turned straight ahead. Not completely straight ahead, but pretty close. And she's going to drop her knee out over her feet. That's going to give her a nice arch in the foot, and that's going to bring good foot, ankle, knee, and hip alignment to the swing, which is what we want for maximum efficiency as she comes forward and does the swing. All right, we just went over the backswing, so now we're going to go over the lockout position, the top of the kettlebell swing. So as you can see here, Christine has fully extended knees, nice and straight, and she's going to purposely lock the quadricep as tight as possible. Okay, that's very important. She wants to do knee extension and lock the quadricep as tight as possible. Arms up. Now we're going to look here, and we see that hip extension is fully achieved with the glutes as tight as possible, since they should be driving the hip extension. She's then going to be in a proper stacked pelvis right over top of the rib cage. That's going to create proper alignment through the spine. She's nice and straight so that the force can transfer through the spine that was created in the legs and transfer efficiently, most efficiently, up to the arms and project out the arms. The arm position should be about somewhere between 45 degrees and 90 degrees of force projection forward. We'd like to see the elbow stay straight so that the force can project most efficiently, as well as the wrist stay straight for that same purpose. The bell should form just an extension of this line right out. Okay? Any wrist bending up, bell will flip. Any elbows bending, and we tend to get too much load to the elbow, and it doesn't transfer down to the bell very well. That's just a rule of thumb. When you start doing some other things with the kettlebell, you may need to bend the arm. But initially in the swing, you just want to get it nice and straight, somewhere between 40 and 90 degrees. Notice the stacked pelvis to rib cage, and of course the abdominals and obliques are what brace that to keep her from going into spinal extension like so, from all the force the legs produce. So it's very important that she gets stacked and look like a plank basically from the side and have purposeful tension in the abdomen. And again, hip extension, knee extension at the same time. Final part, head position. We want the head stacked directly over top of the shoulders, and that in a nice neutral position. We do not want hyperextension of the neck, or what usually occurs is hyperflexion of the neck, where the person tends to tighten the abdomen, but they tend to throw the head down and create this pull on the neck. So we want the neck nice and straight, and that should be the final lockout position.